Hi guys. So, hopefully you've done the clearing exercise. Now that we've gotten clear, we are going to talk about clients because with a clear path, it's time to focus on the heart of our business. And the heart of our business, like there's all that stuff that you can think about, but really it's who are we serving and how are we serving them? And we can't figure out the exact structure and even start creating the whole process of how we're serving if we don't know who we're serving, because there's a lot of nitty gritty that comes in there. This is stuff that often everybody wants to forget because they think they know who their client is and they think they know who they're speaking to. And super important because if it's wrong, even just a little, you're not going to be connecting with the clients. Next week, we're actually going to break this down a little further and go into the client pyramid, and that's the three energetic levels of our client. But this is going to be the foundation to that exercise. So, yay! I'm excited. So, in general, you have a dream client for every single offer, every single way of working with you. And they're likely going to be slight differences between each of them, or it could be the same person, but there's a different problem that's present for them in that time of their life. Cool, right? Doesn't mean that you have a million different dream clients because that sounds like work. Like, that sounds like way too much to track, but it is just like what I was talking about, those different vibrational levels and having a different problem or a different area that they want to focus on in their lives, a different place that they want to transform. And when we know that, we know how to speak to them. And the super extreme example that I always give is like, think of something that pretty much everyone buys, like a car. You're not going to sell a car the same way to a soccer mom as you are to like a 17-year-old boy. Talk about safety to a 17-year-old boy. Yeah, don't care. He wants something that's gonna look cool and, get girls' attention and, I don't know, make lots of noise, probably. Well, if you're talking to the soccer mom, yeah, safety is gonna be the number one thing. Next is probably, how many people fit in it? How much stuff can you fit in it? Because when you have a kid, you have a lot of stuff you carry around. And obviously, we're not selling cars, and we don't want to feel like car salesmen, but we do need to know what are the things that our client actually cares about. And if you've done client work before and it's been, how many kids do they have? Where do they live? Blah, 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 blah. This isn't what we're talking about, because that is to try to make you give life to an archetype, which is fine. But that's not actually giving you the information that you need. And most of the time when people try to come up with who their clients are, they do one of two things. And either they make it up entirely, which is then what you think people are coming to you for, and what you think they need, and what you think they know that they need. And often we're wrong about that because we're not in the same place that they are. Even if they are a previous version of us, it's hard always to reconnect to that older version of you and remember exactly what was going on at every single point of your life. Maybe that's just me, but I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, much less what I was doing 4 years ago or 10 years ago. And I don't think that the previous version of you is always right, because I don't think that my clients are previous versions of me. They're likely not all coming from marketing backgrounds and, trying to become business oriented. A lot of my clients are working one-to-one on different levels. So, the second thing that people often do when they're in this process is doing so much research. And research is good because it proves that what you know about your client is right. But you don't want to do so much research where, this list that you've seen, that you're focusing so much on these little mundane parts of their life that don't affect what you're doing and don't affect any kind of conversation that you're going to have with them That's not the main focus. The main focus is how are you serving them? And yes, we want to know what are other areas of their life that are affected. I mean, because if you're primarily working with moms, great thing to know, because for one, that's going to affect your structure. You're not going to want to have, say, a course where it's 2-hour lessons and they have to do it every day for a month. Because let me tell you, that's not happening. There's no way that they're going to show up to that and be happy about it. If you asked me to find 2 hours of my life for something extra for a month every single day, I would probably just laugh, or I'd be overwhelmed and run away. And chances are that I may not be your client, but still. And from another level, things if they're a mom, like, they want to get things done quickly. They likely need things in smaller bursts so that they can deal with things like being interrupted or having to stop to go deal with whatever is going on in their life. Just knowing those little details does give you something, but we don't want to be focused way out here when we can be focused a little more in here. Okay? So, first, I want you to start with you, because you are the center of all of this, of your business, of what you're doing, of how you're serving, of how you're transforming. You're the center. So what are you doing? And this is not a rhetorical question. Like, this is this is what I want an answer to. And it can be you tell me somewhere, or it can just be you telling me, telepathically, maybe I get it. But this is something that I want you to be able to answer. What is your baseline of how you're helping people transform, of how you're helping people change their lives or their business or their health level, their relationships, whatever it is? What are you doing? What are they getting when they leave you? And this is not what I'm asking for. I'm not asking for your elevator pitch of I help women, blah, 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 blah. Nope. This isn't giving the structure of how you're doing it. It's like the 2-second answer that you immediately come up with, or that, comes off of your mouth. It can be a list of things. So for me, it would be, I help people stabilize their businesses. I help them understand their energy by working with their human design. I teach, and that's pretty much what I do. If you know your human design, you can probably find pieces of what I'm talking about in your design. But basically, what are you actually doing with people? And if you're looking at me like, what are you talking about? I know what I'm doing. Or if you're struggling, here are some questions so we can dive in a little deeper. And that's, so how do you want people to feel when they've worked with you? And maybe this is something you can think about what past clients have already told you. Or maybe it's you grab a journal and you literally write it out. Don't worry, we're going to have some exercises in the homework, so this may be in there, I'll check. But how do you want people to feel afterwards? What are they going to say has changed? What pieces of their life are going to look entirely different? What pieces of their business? What pieces of their relationship? And even if you're not working with them on one of those other areas, chances are something's going to be affected. So what was? We want to focus on the main transformation, but knowing the other things can still help us paint the picture of what is really going on behind the scenes in their life. What do they really need help with? That kind of thing. So other questions you can ask yourself, what are things that people naturally come to you for help with? And this is a tricky one, because that answer doesn't immediately equate to what you're supposed to do in the world. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean that's what you have to do. But often if you think about what do your friends come to you for? It could be something that your clients want from you, and it doesn't have to be, that same type of advice even. It could be they want nurturing. They want really understandable and actionable guidance. They want clarity, whatever it is, just think about that. And what change are you passionate about people creating? What gets you fired up? What gets you excited? For me, probably a lot of you know my story. I can't remember how old I was, but at some point, my mom was leaving my biological father, And it was hard. Like, as a kid, I knew it was hard and I didn't have a full grasp of the situation. But at some point in that, it dawned on me that A, I wanted to be in complete control of my own income, because I never wanted to be in a situation where I was dependent on somebody else, especially if that meant that I couldn't leave a situation that wasn't healthy. But I also wanted to help other women have that independence so that shit hits the fan, they can do what they need to do without having to worry about it. And you may not have a full story behind yours. If you do, it's cool. But just start thinking about, like, what are you passionate about people having, or people overcoming, or people doing? And how does that relate to how you've been showing up? How does that relate to how you want to show up? Maybe there's a direct correlation. Maybe that's something we'll be exploring. That's okay. And if these questions are hard, completely okay. Just know that we'll get there in the homework. What makes this easier for me is to take a look at who I've already worked with. And even if the people I've worked with aren't, the exact people that I know I want to work with now, and even if they're not in the same ways that I want to work with people now, you can still find common ground, common threads. There's still going to be something there that you can grasp about what types of people are attracted to you, what types of people trust you, what types of situations are in their life. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. The easiest way is just to literally brain dump. Like, these are the things I think these people have in common. If you have the time, you could sit down and, go by every single client. It doesn't have to be a paying client. If you help people for free, they count. But you could go through every single one if you wanted, and think of, who are they on, like, a core level. And it doesn't have to be fancy phrase, but just, like, who are they? What are they like? And that could be random things. Like, that could be, in conversation, we send lots of gifts, or we use lots of emojis. It can be just thinking of, like, the type of relationship you've had with them. But also, where do they need support? Where do they think they need support? Often those are different. Even what type of support did you notice helps them achieve success or their goals the best? And that one's going to be a big one, because that tells you really kind of how you perform best, and also how people receive you, your gifts, your wisdom, your energy the best. We can go into this a little separately with your human design. If you know your human design, you may have some ideas of just how your type works. But, so think of that. For me, I know I need to teach. That's literally in my human design. But it is something that I can also go by looking back at all of my offers and looking back at my clients. The clients who have easily, or most easily, checked off milestones of what they wanted and what I wanted them to do, because I don't always tell them my milestones for them, have been the ones that we've had lessons so that they have something they're consistently working on. They're getting my teachings. They're also going out there and implementing them. And so to me, I know that's how people receive what I have to give for them the best. And then they can be supported in the in-between with going in individually into their business, with clearings, with ritual, with whatever. But that is the core of how I work. So what is the core of how you work best with people? Again, these are all open-ended questions, but when you answer them, you're going to know more about you and more about how you're really connecting with your clients. I also like thinking of what are the other areas in their life that they need support with, because again, we talked about with the moms, just knowing oh, you have children. Okay, you may not have a ton of spare time. How can you adjust for that? And just being aware, if they have a lot of problems in their relationship, does, communication need to be something you address? Are there ways that this overlaps with what you do, just so that you can be aware? Are there ways that you can work with them, or even structure, which you don't need to think about the structure right this second, but that you can structure what you do so that it supports them a little bit there, just so that they have, like firm ground to grow off of. And of course, we want to think about what problem did they know they have, or what area of life, business, whatever, did they know they want to transform? And then when you're looking at them, what did they really need to transform? Or even, what did they really get out of the experience of working with you? And again, if you have, conversation or forms or testimonials that you request after the fact, these can be where you get those little pieces, and sometimes they'll surprise you. It could be, a lot of people after they work with me say like, oh, they have clarity and they feel more confident in what they do. And if that's not something that I have focused on in that program, I'm kind of like, okay, well, I wasn't expecting that. But it's just kind of the core line of when all the pieces add up, that's what they get. So when you know that for yourself, that is something that you can address in how you're speaking to them, because you're going to realize, okay, most of the clients that are coming into me may need more confidence. They may need to be more clear on what they're doing and how they're doing it so that they can talk about it, so they can bring clients in. I'm using myself as an example now, if we couldn't tell. It's just easier that way. But, I'm hitting something. So that's what we want to do. In the homework, we're actually going to be doing this sort of on offers, so that we can see what are the common threads between the types of offers, like between the types of people who have come into your offers. And there will be some extra questions in case you want to explore deeper, and in case you haven't had as many clients as you want. And while you're doing this, you can also start thinking about, I don't necessarily want to call them tools, but like other tools, I don't have a better word, we're going to call them tools, other things, other practices that you use in your work. So for me, I keep a spreadsheet of everyone's human design. And I don't have all of my clients ever, but I have most of them. And that way I can look at their types, and there are particular centers that I look at. And, if I check in with that every 3 to 6 months, you can see if there's any patterns. And like last year I noticed, wasn't expecting this. I work with a ton of projectors, and I knew I worked with a ton of projectors, but when I looked at it, and my husband created it, so it had graphs and everything, it was there are programs where I am very much exceeding the, percentage that would be expected for projectors. And then I could look a little deeper with okay, most of the people coming to me are defined throats with open willpowers or heart, whatever you want to call it. They're both the same thing. And when we can look at those patterns, we can see kind of what's underneath of that. So for those centers, I can realize people who are coming to me want, I won't say clarity, but they want to know how to express who they truly are, what they're truly doing, what their soul purpose is. But they also want, with that willpower aspect, to be able to take consistent action towards everything that they're doing without burning themselves out. And that tells me that that's something that I need to make sure is built into probably everything that I do. Just knowing that a good majority of people coming in, that's going to be the common thread. And of course, you don't have to use human design. If you want to use human design with that, you can. But you could do that with if you're looking at people's astrology, or if there's a particular, quiz. Maybe it's yours, maybe it's someone else's. But taking a look at those little details to give you a little bit more depth of who is actually coming into my sphere, who is coming in around me. And if you're now looking at me okay, we've talked about the past, can we actually get who we want coming in? Yes. So that's kind of the $1 million question is, who do you want coming in? Because if you just say everyone, you're not going to get clients you're happy with. And that is the biggest thing this industry needs to change, is you can't work with everyone. You can't help everyone, because then you're not serving the way you're supposed to. Because then you're not connecting with the people who are truly going to get the most out of what you're doing and truly going to, create that ripple effect of everything. So to me, the answer is, it's that combination of who were energetically most aligned, most qualified, like whatever you want to call it. Like who is the energetically most connected to what we are here to do, as well as who is naturally attracted to us, and that could be the same thing. When I say qualified, I don't mean like literally going out and getting qualifications or certifications, but like, how are you actually supposed to be helping people? What's your true magic? As opposed to like, what are the things you're just really good at? And sometimes that can just be a structure thing, but sometimes that can be you're doing things you're not supposed to. And we'll talk on that for a second. So I'll use me as an example because it's easy. When I first opened Starlight Strategies, it was still kind of structured like a corporate business. And what I thought I was going to be doing was offering people strategy packages where we would go in and create their plans for 90 days and all of the, major milestones, things that they would do to get there, as well as including, rituals and meditations and the energetic aspects to align and keep everything afloat with what they're doing. Totally thought that's what I was doing. It's not what I'm here to do. And I wasn't super fluent in human design at that point. I was just dabbling, so it makes sense that I don't think I knew human design when I first opened, or like when I first started creating everything. It was like right when I opened it that I found out about human design and started diving in. But at some point I had to take that look of like, oh, well, people still want strategy from me. They still want direction on how to get to where they want to go. But what does it look like if I'm not doing it for them? If I'm not creating it? And that was when I started realizing they want more lessons. They want to know how to use this information themselves. They want to know how to do the energetic aspects, as well as, knowing how to do some of the strategy, but everything needs to be broken down in a different way. And that little shift was enough to really like start anchoring in my business. So that's something for you to think about with what is your core magic? And what are all the pieces that like, I don't know, I'm thinking like Velcro that I'm sure like, microfiber. So when you use a microfiber cloth, like everything in its mother sticks to it. So you don't want to be the microfiber cloth. Like, what are all of these things that have somehow, like, gotten stuck to you that don't need to be? Sure, you're good at a lot of things. It doesn't mean you have to do them all. Doesn't mean you're supposed to do them all. So if we're pulling back, like, all the things, what has to remain? And those are the clients. Like, that aspect is going to affect, those are the clients that are coming in, because our clients, like, to me, the phrase that I've always used is our dream clients aren't unicorns. They're not hiding from us. They are everywhere. We don't need to know necessarily how many children they have or like what color their picket fence is. What we need to know is what are they passionate about? What do they advocate for? What lights them up? And what do they really freaking want to transform? Why are they fed up with, whatever the situation is, or why do they know they need transformation? And those are the aspects that, we're going to talk to them. We also need to know that because we can't help them create transformation if we don't know what needs transformation. I mean, like, I could bring somebody in and be like, make my house look pretty. Okay, great. If they don't know what I consider pretty, what I consider not pretty, how are they going to create anything that I want? Like, they could completely renovate the entire house and they could come in and be like, I hate all of this. Because there was none of that. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know what I wanted, what my goals are, or what needed transformation. But if I'm like, oh, I want it to look like, I don't know my architecture, so I don't know why I used this example, but I wanted this to look like a beach cottage. Then they have direction and they can come in and change things. So that's the same thing we're looking for, is like, what is that core area? Like, the way I look at it is we aren't selling products, we aren't selling offers. What we're selling them is that transformation and the path to get there. Because anyone that's working with us, there has to be that end goal, that transformation, the thing that's going to change in their lives, in their business, and, their relationships, everything. So, here are your questions. What is that big transformation that your client is looking for? Why? I'm going to stop using fingers because I'm going to run out of them. Or this hand at least. We don't need to bring in both hands. Why do they want that transformation? What's coming up in their life, in their business that is like shining the light on like we need that. And it could just be like they're getting frustrated, probably a generator or a management. It could be that they're seeing somebody else do it easier or, have it a little bit better, and that it's lighting that like, oh, this could be different. What would it look like for me if it's different? But knowing that why helps. What are they going to need to actually achieve that transformation? And they don't necessarily have to be aware of this, but what do you know that they need to achieve that? And then you kind of think about, what do they think they need? Because we all know that people often, blinders on. You think you need one thing, and maybe you do, but maybe you also need something a little more expansive behind it, or a little more supportive behind it, and that's fine. As, whether you consider yourself a coach or a mentor, leader, whatever. As anyone who is guiding somebody, we need to know the structure that's underneath what people are thinking about. So we need to be able to see, like, kind of, if she's here, we need to see what's back here. How did she get there? What needs to change in order for her to get here? Full picture. And also we can think about what connects somebody coming in to you. And that could be, what are things you have in common? It could even be, what is in you that they are looking for that, they may not have, or like that could be like a human design thing. Like, I have defined willpower, so people come to me when they want defined willpower. But it could also be like they know they do best when somebody is, trying to think of the right word. When somebody is like, I don't know, a kick in their ass. So they need that type of experience. So they're coming to you because of that. Maybe they're coming to you because they need like gentle motherly love. But being aware of that so that you can use that in your relationship with them. Okay. So we're going to have homework, and it should be underneath. So look underneath, and you're going to have exact questions to go through to look at who has worked with you. We can explore that. And then creating kind of like the baseline foundation of who our dream client is. And next week we're going to dive into that so much more, create that client pyramid and have it. I wish I'd brought my pyramid closer. I'm looking at them. I'm like, I can't reach them. And breaking it down into the energetic levels of who that woman is or who the person is, and what's aligned for them. So feel free to show me anything. If you're in the group and you want to share your client information with the group, please do. I love that because then everyone else can support you a little bit more. And I like that. Okay, bye.